Hi, everybody. It's Michelle. I wanted to talk about the energies of December in somewhat all the way through the new year because we've got a lot of transits. This is the month that a lot of us in astrology and human design have really been kind of poking our head around because we knew that the intensity of what people might be feeling could be pretty big. And so in my socials, I talked a lot about the new moon in Sagittarius. It's a fire sign. It's ruled by Jupiter. And we love setting new intentions, right? Because that's what new moons are about. We love setting new intentions. It's always the vibrancy of who we are. And yes, you should be and you should have. And if you haven't, it's okay. Set your intentions. Or Sagittarius is all about learning, expansive travel. It's really a good luck charm because it's like ruled by Jupiter. And who doesn't love Jupiter? Jupiter's, all the good things in life that you desire and you want. Okay, so that was the new moon. But what was happening within that new moon kind of adds new layers onto what's happening for the whole collective of society, of humanity. And that is, we have a Jupiter squaring Saturn. Not easy. Jupiter's like, yay, let's manifest, let's do things, let's travel, let's co-create. And then there's Saturn, who's the limiter. Like, no, like that's not going to work. Take a look at it again. Are you following the rules? Like those two do not get along well. And so you've got some resistance on like, how can I, sorry, let me turn this off. We've got some resistance on like manifesting right there, right? And it's funny because in the past I've been like, oh man, that really stinks that this energy is happening. But in truth, we all are all in a place where we're all growing. We're all growing, whether we believe it or not, rapidly now in the consciousness of the planet, which means that sometimes when we've got these dreams and ideologies and these new moon intentions that we want, we set them for where we are in the moment. But what it feels like is that some of the intentions that we've been desiring are probably going to shift or change. And that's when retrogrades in any of these planets, Jupiter's still in retrograde, Mercury's in retrograde right now. We've got another one coming up at the end of this week that is going to be pretty intense. And so I feel like this new moon might be, you're going to feel like you're pushing the cart uphill instead of riding in the cart, going downhill with your intentions. I heard a lot of my coaching clients are talking about how their Black Friday deals just busted. They sold some stuff, but it wasn't anything that they had ever, like in the past, they'd sold a lot and it just wasn't happening. And it makes a lot of sense because this was happening during that time. It doesn't mean our dreams aren't going to happen. It means that you might be revisiting what it is that you wrote your intentions about or what your dreams are. You might be revisiting them because I think a lot of us are going to be changing a lot of philosophies because new moon in Sagittarius has to do with philosophies. What are your belief systems? How do you live out those belief systems? And if your belief systems are about to change, we don't necessarily want what we thought we wanted in that moment. And that's what I feel like this particular new moon was actually anchoring in for all of us. And then you had Mercury in retrograde. That's still happening through December 16th. I think it goes back direct. Now, we've all been through a gazillion Mercury retrogrades. But it does mean that communication can be fumbled by you or you getting communication from somebody else and you don't understand. So there's a level of frustration that happens just within that, right? And again, it depends on where it's happening in your house, and and yeah, pretty much the house placement. That's pretty important for all of that. Okay, so then we roll into the end of this week on December 7th. We've got Mars going in retrograde. This is a big one. Why I say it's a big one is because it's another fire sign. Like Sagittarius is a fire sign, right? We had Mercury. We've now got Gate 31 is retrograde with Mars starting on December 7th. And Gate 31 comes out of the throat center in human design, which is a really heavy influencing kind of energy. And what that means is, sorry, my other computer's making noise. What that means is that what you say is going to have influence on other people. So if you're saying something because you're being reactionary to something, because that's what Mars is going to be doing. We're all going to go through these moments where we're going to get triggered, or we're going to have this moment of rage and anger that comes through us. And because you think about it, Mars is a planet that wants what it wants when it wants it. And when it doesn't get it, it kicks and screams like it's having a tantrum. And it's interesting because I've already been feeling it. I start feeling it over the weekend. It's not even here yet, but I typically feel the energies a couple days prior to them actually really hitting full blown. Everybody can. Anyways, and so what I'm saying is that words are going to really have even more power to it. Words are going to have more power to it, and not necessarily in a great way. However, I think there are times in which we've been all holding back, expressing something that we need, expressing frustration. Like we don't really, all of us don't really have a really great way of expressing that in a safe environment. We've never been taught, like when you're angry, especially women, like when you're angry, what do you do with it? Well, sometimes we can flip ourselves into being a little bit more controlling. Passive aggressive because we don't know what to do with anger. Because you think about it, anger is the one emotion that feels like it's going to burn a hole in your body. It's almost like projectile vomiting out words because it feels so freaking intense. And it's the hardest thing to stop, right? So we have to learn how to create. And I believe all of this is happening because as we're evolving as humans and learning that somebody may not agree with me, or maybe there's been something brewing underneath the layers of niceties that need to be discussed and discussed with love and compassion behind it. But at first, when anger shows up, anger needs its place. It needs to know that it's valid in feeling angry. That's kind of part of why we're always talking about, the ego versus like consciousness. I don't even know if that's the right terminology for it, but it's kind of like, how do I handle things when I'm angry? Ooh, it's hard to slow it down. But when I realize I'm being reactionary, and that's the key, being your own observer of what your emotions are. And so when you can catch yourself in a moment where you're going to have a reaction to something and you give yourself permission to exit and you give yourself permission to go out and just get it up and out, right? Sometimes it's screaming, sometimes it's exercising, sometimes it's writing those FU letters, sometimes it's like giving yourself moments to just be with the anger. And again, most of us have not really utilized the aspect of it. We just feel the energy coming off of the body in the moment that you're having those emotional reactions, they integrate really quickly if you can just be with it. But it's uncomfortable to be with it. But if we resist it, it gets bigger and then the reactions are really big. So I think there's a part of us that needs to understand there's some of us who are going to be saying some things and some of us are going to be receiving some things word wise that are going to feel uncomfortable. It's more important of how we're handling those situations with this Mars in retrograde. And I don't know if I've already said or not, but this goes until February 25, this Mars in retrograde. It's a long period of time. Starts off in Leo and then it will back its way back into Cancer. And Cancer in Mars are not very comfortable either. It's a water sign with a fire sign. They don't mix very well. Right now, you're just going to feel the feistiness of it. So I think if you're not working with somebody like a therapist or somebody who can help you get through your anger, or you don't have tools, listen, it's okay not to have tools. Nobody's taught us these tools until the last 20 years. Like, and then when people started to identify, like, what are our emotions and what do we do with them, right? It's going to be really a key moment for you to do that because what you say today is going to influence your relationships and where you're going into your future. Again, this is a blurb in time, although it seems like, 3 months is a long time, but really when you look at the aspect of how long you're here on the planet and what's going on in your world, I think this is why I study this stuff is because it gives me I feel like I'm always on the leading edge, and so are the people who study this stuff. Like you're on the leading edge to understand why the frequency just changed. Why aren't things maybe selling as quickly? If you're in business for yourself, why aren't things selling so quickly as they normally do? Do I need to freak out? No, you don't need to freak out. But you need to learn how to manage the energies of fear and anger that are going to be bubbling up for everybody on the planet. A lot of times we see, more wars going on. We see, and I'm not trying to be doom and gloom because this is 3 months, right? 3 months into helping us grow and evolve in humanity. So when you get reactive about something, you need to start asking yourself some good questions. A, is there an underlying issue that I've been ignoring for a long period of time within myself? Is there something I'm not expressing on the regular to somebody else that's really been bothering me that we need to have a good conversation, but I'm nervous to have it, right? If you are a non-emotional in human design, meaning that solar plexus area is open, you're the person who probably does this a lot. Like you don't want to have those discussions because you know it's going to percolate it up. And knowing that you're safe in doing so, if you give yourself a moment first to internalize, to go through, to figure out why it is you just got triggered, what is the reaction, giving it space to be, to heal. And for some of you, you don't react. And this is going to give you the energy to react. Like, I think there's always two sides to everything. And for some of you that maybe haven't been saying what you needed to say because you didn't know how to say it, this is going to give you the push to do so. And of course, we always want to do things in ways that we understand everyone is doing the best that they can do. And people, most of the time, are not doing anything intentional to you. I think that there are times when we're in relationships that we can poke the bear, right? And if we're poking the bear, sometimes we have to own it. Like, yep, I've been poking the bear. I haven't been dealing with the issue. I've been being passive aggressive, whatever it is. But this is the time to deal with this right now. This is the time to go inward and be a little bit more compassionate with yourself and with other people. This is a time to let's take a look at anger. Why am I angry? It's usually because there's a belief system that you have that the other person doesn't have. That's why we had the new moon in Sagittarius, all about belief systems, that we're going to take a peek like, well, this is my belief system. Oh, well, maybe this doesn't work with this person. So do I need to be doing business with them? Do I need to be in partnership? Do I need to be in relationship with them? I think all of that stuff is going to be starting to unravel itself now through February. And that's a lot. And I think it's beautiful because a lot of the times during December, people are starting to hopefully not be so hyped up on getting everything done and instead starting to really see what the season, like it doesn't matter what your beliefs are. Like December typically is an inward time. It's getting cold out. We're coming in. We're coming inward. We're discovering more about the quietness of the darkness because it's not as bright as it normally is. So we get to go and spend more time inside. And that's a metaphor, going inside, turning on lights, turning on the fire for us in the Northern Hemisphere. Like all of that is purposeful, I think, and gives us an opportunity to really look at what do I want? It's interesting because I'm also doing a free class called Words Have Power. It's on December 13th. It right in between all of this, all of these retrogrades. Um, it's at 10 a.m. It's recorded if you want to join in. It's a free workshop and it's really has to do with the power of your word. And I got this hit a while ago to do this class at this point in time. I didn't really figure it all out till recently about why it would be important to do that. Instead of doing like goals and objectives, we're doing a word. And it's funny because in human design, my manifesting style is not to have so much detail. Some of you need a lot of detail when it comes to manifesting. Um, and and I think that finding a word for me has been the thing that I've been doing, I don't know, like 6 years, 7 years now, that has really helped me to anchor in the global focus for myself for the year. And I think knowing that we've got such fire going on for ourselves, this particular class is going to really help all of us to come together to find the flavor of what it is that we want to be creating. What is the new belief system? And let's get it down to a word or a couple words, or maybe it'll be a full sentence for you. There's no rules to this, but we're also going to work on symbolization. Like that's going to be really symbolization. Is that even a word? That's going to be really potent. A little channeling is going to happen. And I always feel like when more than one person comes together, there's a lot of vibrancy and healing and expansion of like who we are as souls. We come together. So that's in my link tree. Go check that out if that's something you're interested in, or just put it in the comments and I'll be sure to send you the link to it. So we have got a potency time. Every moment is potent. I think that this one has to do with like, let's take a look at some stuff that's been lingering. Let's look at our communication. Let's look about what our dreams and how we're expanding in humanity and make sure that we can grow in the way that's going to be most beneficial, first and foremost for you. And then let go of the things because with the full moon coming up, what day is that full moon coming up? I didn't even look. So hold on. Uh, well, we got the winter solstice. Um, Full moon is the 15th. Yeah, so we'll be doing a little bit of releasing there. Which will be perfect and beautiful, right? As we're setting those intentions. So first and foremost, make sure that when you're angry, you have learned, and if you don't know how to deal with anger, Google, like figure some tools out for yourself. For some of us, it's going to be hitting some planets in your chart. Get to know your natal chart really well so that you know how it's going to be hitting you. Take a look at your the transits. And let me show you how to do that really quickly while we're on here. Okay. Let's see. See if you're seeing this. Yep. Okay. So this is the United States. This is astro.com. You can go in and just add your natal. And let me explain this really quickly to you all. So, sure, I will. There we go. Okay. So in astro.com, the black is natal. So this is the birth of the United States, right? This never changes. This stays the same. And what you're looking for is the houses right here. Now I'm going to pop in the transits. And the transits in this particular site are green. These are the transits. Of course, you're going to need to know what the signs are. They do tell you over here in this little graph, like what the signs' names are, and you can find them that way. So I'm going to show you really quickly. So currently Mercury in the United States is retrograde and it's in the first house. First house is ruled by Mars. And it is the fiery sign. And it says, I want what I want when I want it. Right. And so there's going to be a lot of frustration for people and again, this is in Sagittarius, which has to do with your belief systems, how you're communicating, how you're seeing the world and interacting with the world. So this is where I say, I think some belief systems are going to be shifting. And then we have Mars over here, which isn't retrograde yet. This is from today, but will be once it hits 7 degrees. And then it will go backwards into Cancer. This is Leo. And then the United States, this is in the 8th house. 8th house has to do with taxes, with death, with transformations on things. So things are going to be imploding. This is ruled by Pluto. We already know Pluto is just hopped itself into Aquarius, which is a very fast moving planet. So I would say for the United States, taxes, there's going to be some fired up energies about other people's money in general. Some things are going to be dying off. So you can see what house it happens in your own personal chart, because in truth, that's what's going to hit you more. So take a look at where Mars is. Mercury retrograde will end on December 5th. 16th. This will stay until February. It'll keep going backwards. So it might be in one house now, and later on, it's going to flip into a different house. So it's really going to be clearing out this aspect of like what is it that you've been desiring in life? How have you been standing up for yourself? How have you been not standing up for yourself? And how can you handle the quick anger that will happen? That's how you kind of look that up pretty quickly for those of you who are interested. So anyways, I'm sending you guys all a lot of love. There's so much passion and passion is always a driver. And passion in a healthy way is a great driver. But lead always forward with everything you do with purpose and passion. The 2 P's, purpose and passion. And know that this is just a blip in time and that we're growing and we're learning. And that although sometimes that feels really uncomfortable to do it, just realize when we walk through this as a whole group, as a collective, the more of us that go internally and really work through this, the brightness that the spring is going to bring for us is going to be beautiful. And again, we still got a lot of things that we're going to be going through. But when we know that when I know that there's always a purpose for something, and that I may not understand the purpose in the moment, that's not my job. My job is to always just go through whatever it is I'm going through the best way I can, which is not to ignore it. Right. That's where we're at in humanity. We can't ignore things anymore. We can't say they're good and I'm bad, or we can't be pointing fingers anymore. It's like, what can I do about it? Well, I have to work on my internal stuff first before I can look at the outside world. And part of this energy, I think, is about that. Ugh. Okay. Sending you guys so much love. Let me know in the comments how this is working for you and how you're feeling. And I'll talk to you all very soon.